Hi Year 7 and 8, Mrs W here again. Hope you're all okay, hope you're all safe and well and that your families are too. Going to look at something that's really important to myself and that's really important to the rest of the world, particularly to those people in developing countries this week. What I'd like you to do first and foremost is have a look at the sentence on the screen from Martin Luther King. Before you finish eating breakfast in the morning, you've depended on more than half the world. Look at that picture. Where do you think the food comes from? How do you think it's grown? Do you think it's grown in the best way? Where's it come from? How far's it had to travel? Lots of different things to think about there. So, my question to you now, where have you seen that symbol before? What does the symbol mean? Do you even know? It actually means that an item that you're purchasing, if it has that label on the food packaging itself, or that logo should I say, it means that an item is fair trade, and that's what we're going to look at today. But before we can look at fair trade, we need to look at what we mean by the term unfair trade. You can see there's a picture there. Young boy in a developing country working. How old would you say he is? I'd probably say 8, 9, 10. Certainly I wouldn't say much older than somebody in Year 7 at the very, very oldest. And what we mean by unfair trade is that we're using children, or we are forcing people to work. The conditions that people and these children have to work in are very, very poor. No electricity sometimes, no toilet facilities, working 12-hour shifts, working 14-hour shifts sometimes, people getting paid a very, very, very low wage. They don't even have enough to cover the cost of production. That means that people in the third world suffer from increased poverty. And not only that, it also means that the people who are producing these products, not the owners, but the people actually growing it, the farmers and their families, have got a really, really, really negative lifestyle. And not only that, it also has quite a negative impact on the environment because things aren't thought about properly. We don't use the best way of growing these products, etc. So let's have a look at this slide, the banana split. As it says here, many different people help to bring bananas to the supermarkets. For a non-fair trade banana, how much do you think each person listed there gets out of the 30 pence? So you've got a banana worker, you've got a plantation owner, you've got a shipper, and you've also got the shops and the supermarkets. Let's have a look now at what each of those people do. So, the banana worker works 12 to 14 hours a day, picks, carries and washes really heavy loads of bananas, uses chemicals that make the bananas grow, but they can make the worker ill. You've then got a plantation owner. He runs the farm, he has to pay for expensive machinery and chemicals and loses money if the bananas don't grow properly. You've then got the shipper. They transport the bananas using massive oil tanker sized ships, have to buy the ships, have to pay for the fuel, and if the bananas go mouldy on the ship, or if anything happens which means that the ships can't get them there on time, they lose money. You've finally got the shops and supermarkets. They sell the bananas, they have to pay staff wages, they have the heating and lighting bills in the shops, they have advertising bills. They have to sell the best bananas at the best price so they beat the competition. Every shop and supermarket will want to be the one selling the best. So you think about those 4 different people who work within those bananas, and let's actually see how much each group gets for the 30 pence banana. So categories are 15 pence, 7 pence, 6 pence and 2 pence. The shops and supermarkets get 15 pence of it. The plantation owner gets 7. The shipper will get 6 pence, which leaves the person the banana worker who's doing those 12 to 14 hour shifts of really heavy, intensive labour, putting their own health at risk because of the chemicals, they get a measly 2p for each of the bananas that are sold at 30p. You have to sell an awful lot of bananas to get a decent living if you are only earning 2p per banana. So that's the question. Do you think this is fair? I don't. So what we have to do is look at fair trade. What is it? Well, underneath here you've got a statement and it clearly says fair trade is about providing workers in developing countries with a fair wage with which they can feed, educate and medically provide for themselves and for their children. Back on the second slide when we were talking about unfair trade, I very deliberately put the phrase third world in there. The reason I did that is because it's quite a negative term. What we do today, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, we no longer refer to as countries being part of the third world. We talk about these countries being developing countries because they have systems in place whereby they are developing their medical system, their education system, but they are nowhere near as far forward as we are in, for example, the United Kingdom or America or most of Europe. And fair trade is a group that makes sure that workers from these developing countries receive a decent wage. It ensures good working conditions, toilets, showers, places to have food and drink, decent quality travelling systems if necessary. They don't have to work 12 to 14 hours a day. They may have a shift pattern. Sometimes 12 to 14 hours a day may be necessary if you've got a harvest to bring in. But nevertheless, the conditions that people have to work in are really good in comparison to those who are working in an unfair trade system. And fair trade makes sure that only adults are employed to work. No children are employed at all. In unfair trade, there have been instances whereby children as young as 4 or 5 are working in places, particularly in the textiles industry, and that again can be for 10, 12 hours a day. I don't think that's very fair. I'm not sure you would either. And fair trade helps villagers in developing countries to live healthily and happily without needing charity or handouts. They may need an initial amount of money to make things better or to get things going, but because the people have decent wages, they can pay for things, they can help for things to develop, and they are self-sustaining. And finally, it looks after the environment more. Farmers are paid fairly, so they don't need to use the harmful chemicals in order to grow more food and faster. Remember when we went to that slide about who gets and who does what, the banana worker on the slide for the unfair trade banana was potentially going to be ill because of the chemicals. If you don't need the chemicals because people have better conditions and there isn't as much pressure being placed on them, bananas will grow when bananas grow, then they get a fair wage. That means they don't have to use these nasty things. So how does fair trade work? Well, it does one thing, and it cuts out the middleman. That means that more profit goes to the farmer. The shipping industry and the shops and supermarkets still need to make their cut, but instead of having an owner of a plantation as we had previously, the farmer gets paid directly. So this picture here, you've got a gentleman in South America who's doing coffee beans. Instead of working for somebody but doing all the work himself, and then that person getting paid an awful lot more than the farmer does, the farmer is getting paid the proper price for the product that he and his family are producing. One thing you do have to think about though, fair trade products are usually more expensive than non-fair trade, and that's because it makes sure that everyone's paid a good wage for the work that they do. Do you think it's worth it? I can't tell you the price comparison of everything, but I can use an example of a chocolate bar or a jar of coffee, maybe 10, 20 pence more. It might be 30 pence more for a jar of coffee if it's fair trade. I don't think that's too much to ask to make sure that people are okay, but that's my opinion. What do you think? And what products can we get that are fair trade? Well, if you have a look to the top right hand side of the screen, the logo, that symbol, anything that carries that symbol means it's fair trade. And you can buy lots of different products, not just food. You can get coffee, you can get jewellery, you can get clothing, wine, chocolate, fruit, lots and lots and lots of different things. You can also get toiletries nowadays. You've got an example there of some shops products that you can get from Sainsbury's, actually, to be fair. Now, all supermarkets nowadays, as it says here, will sell at least some fair trade products, and those are the leading supermarkets. So you've got Co-op, Asda, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, we do have Morrison's, Aldi do their own now, Lidl do their own. And it's important for all supermarkets to show that they are working to improve the lives of people that are applying their products. So what does fair trade mean to you? Well, supporting fair trade means that you can make a real difference to lots of people who need it around the world in developing countries, and it also helps the environment. The products taste great. Sometimes they actually taste better because they don't use the rubbish chemicals. And the one thing to note is that they will cost the same as leading brands. By that, they will be more expensive than a supermarket owned brand. But if you were comparing Kenco coffee as a leading brand of coffee to buy, and you were using then fair trade, they would be roughly the same amount of money. So your task, now we've gone through all the information about fair trade, is to individually design a Facebook page or a poster about fair trade, encouraging people to look at, to understand and even buy more fair trade products. You can see on this page here there are some symbols, there are some logos, different organisations you might want to research into and to have a look at. You can do this in any way that you want to do. You can do it on a sheet of paper, you can do it in the book that school have provided for you, you can add colour, you don't have to if you haven't got them, whatever you want to do. And then what I'd like you to do is to, once you've given people as much information as possible about it, I'd like you to either email me a screenshot to foodteacher@carmanor.org, or maybe take a photograph on your phone, upload that if you're able to do so. If not, just take a photo of the work that you've done on your book and you can email it to foodteacher@carmanor.org. Hope everyone stays safe. I look forward to seeing you as soon as possible, and I look forward to seeing your work about fair trade. Okay guys, speak to you soon. Bye.